Good morning, everybody. I hope you are all very well. I think we'll go ahead and start now. My name's Dominic. I head up the Industry Initiatives team here at the IAB, and welcome to today's Digital Out of Home webinar. Today, I've got the great pleasure of introducing to you some fantastic updates from some of our members on the Digital Out of Home Advisory Group. It's been a tough few months in this space as well, you can imagine. So hopefully over the next 90 minutes, we'll be updating you on some of the latest developments and show you why the digital out of home sector is one of the most exciting areas to be in currently in digital advertising. I'll introduce the speakers shortly. If you have any questions at all, please use the Q&A functionality at the bottom of your screens. And what we'll do is we'll answer those questions at the end of the entire session rather than at the end of the individual sessions, individual speakers. It just helps with the flow of the actual presentation as well. We're going to be recording the session, so I'll just double check with Hebe that we are hitting record. If you can do that, that's great. Yes, we are. And we'll be able to share both the decks and the videos afterwards as well. So without further ado, it'd be great to get the ball rolling on the agenda. We're going to be hearing from Hivestack, Posterscope, View and Tide. And first up, we've got Stephen Manson, who's the Director of Client Services at Hivestack, and he's here to set the scene with an overview of the current digital out-of-home landscape and why there's such a buzz around the sector right now. So Stephen, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I am Stephen from Hivestack. Unfortunately, can't be with you in person, obviously, today. I'm not actually in the UK this morning, which is why it is so mysteriously dark behind me. But let me jump right in and get going here. So hopefully you should all be able to see my screen. And let's begin. Hello, I'm Stephen. I am based out of Canada, which is why it's so dark here this morning. But we work globally. So we've recently managed to open our UK office. We've got 2 amazing hires there. So it's very, very exciting for me, being from the UK, to start fully launching our offering there in the UK. And 2020, as Dom was saying there in his introduction, there was huge momentum coming out of 2019 and beginning 2020. There's a really great early Financial Times article from January, February this year that you can go and find. It's behind a paywall, but if you've got a friend with a login, it's really worth a good read. Group M forecasting a lot of growth in out-of-home overall, and that out-of-home being the only traditional media format growing. And all of that is due to the sort of a lot of the innovation or the new innovation in the space from DSPs and SSPs, but also buy-in from all of the major holding companies, everybody looking to get into this space, to learn about it, and to be part of it. And then this happened, which is why we're all where we are this morning, remote. Not much sugarcoating available, really. Total lockdown is probably about the worst thing that could happen to the out-of-home industry. And for us, over the course of about a week and a half, every single buyer and agency and brand that we work with all over the world got in contact with us to cancel their campaigns or to push their campaigns back or to move their budgets to the next quarter. A lot of difficult times for our partners on the supply side. Really had a huge impact on out-of-home. And one of the best things about buying digital out-of-home from some of these newer platforms is that you can buy non-guaranteed exchange inventory. It's very, very easy to do, and you can pause, you can cancel, you can push budgets, you can change dates, and there's no penalty really for doing that. As a brand, you might have some commitments that you need to make to your agency, so you might not be able to remove that budget, but it's very, very easy to stop spend, which is a great benefit, but obviously a big issue, a big challenge when the whole world is looking to cancel their campaigns or pause them. And so what a lot of players in the out-of-home space are doing right now is looking at these mobility trends. And Apple do it very, very well. It's very clean and easy to see that there's a return to traffic, people coming back. And for driving in particular, if you're doing roadside large format, this is key. You want to see that positive trend, that uplift. Google also do it. It's not quite as easily digestible, but something that they do have is an increase in residential mobility. So here in North America, this is very important because these huge condo developments with all the cool kids living downtown in these 60-story buildings with screens everywhere. So there's a lot of opportunity for these smaller digital place-based companies here to activate and maintain business during this large lockdown. Less so in the UK, but there still are opportunities there. This is another North American example from Ubimo. They are one of major players over here. Talon have got a great resource you can go and check out. I'm looking at it a lot, and there's lots of different breakdowns here, but you can see the same sort of positive uptick returning towards the baseline, and we've got one too. So everybody's looking for good news in this space, and there are lots of signs of strong life. And to quote my mate, we're going to be okay. So how are we going to be okay? We're going to be okay because the growth that we saw coming out of 2019, January, February, we can see that returning. We can see
on the billing address.
We can see the return in RFPs and proposals and questions coming for us, and a lot of the growth, really, or all of the growth in digital out-of-home right now is being powered by digital innovation. So out-of-home, always full of format innovation, which we've seen in the past through the change from static paper signage into the new digital out-of-home push for connected screens. So digital really powering all of the growth in digital out-of-home right now. And it's powering it through new technology. So what is this? There's no proposal or deck that you will see this year that does not have one of these limb escapes. We love them. I've made one. So you can, we could probably spend 20 minutes on this slide, but we'll try to just spend a moment on it. If you are a brand and you are contacting your agency, apologies agencies for lumping you into your holding companies with one independent. But if you're looking to place a digital out-of-home buy, you can still do that. You can send your insertion order over directly, execute on your media, you've done your planning somewhere else, and that is not going away for the foreseeable future. It's still an area of growth, but where the main push that we see is in these newer DSPs and SSPs. So you've got a couple of options. If you are BT and you want to place a buy, you can do that directly with an insertion order. But if you are not doing any of this other stuff here, you're missing out on an opportunity. If you're a brand, you are missing out as an agency. You're weakening your pitch. If you're in a competitive business pitch, you are only doing direct buys without doing any of this other stuff. Your proposition is not as strong. So you can log into your existing omnichannel DSPs. That's our top bubble there in the middle with the Trade Desk and MediaMath. You can partner with a channel-specific DSP. So that's us, that's Hivestack, that's what we do. These are our major competitors, missing Splicky in there. There's actually a huge number of European digital out-of-home DSPs, and all of them are very innovative. And I'm sorry I couldn't squeeze more of you in there. But you can go channel-specific. They have got a lot of the planning tools, forecasting things that you are used to doing. and you can connect into exchanges and SSPs. And that's really what's driving all of this growth, these connections, these new connections. So these new connections come with new targeting. Hooray, mobile location data is here. So a lot of the targeting, a lot of the audiences that we offer and our competitors offer are based on GDPR compliant mobile device ID data. And those are going to come from SDKs. Some of them come from Bitstream. We don't generally use it, but SDK, there's a lot of it, and it still exists now, and it can still be done in a GDPR compliant way, building audiences based on location data. And if you are an agency, one of the things that's going to be key for you is your first party data, your value proposition, the information that only you have and your competitors do not. And you can activate using that same strategy through an intermediary, a solution like LiveRamp, very, very dominant, where you can convert your cookies, your first party cookie audiences into device IDs, and then activate or target or do some form of measurement using that. So that is what a lot of the targeting is based around right now. But oh no, it's going away. So it's absolutely going away. We've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, and we know that it's coming to an end. And when you are filling in your GDPR documentation, your risk assessments, it's becoming increasingly more of a challenge to justify why you, as a company, need to track users to deliver a better advertising experience that consumers haven't asked for. So cookies are going away very shortly. Lots of great articles on that in the industry press. Device IDs are believed to be next, or possibly even before cookies. iOS 14 coming out. Ari Paparo did a great article in Ad Exchanger yesterday. You can go and read about some of the questions. He's one of the sort of ad tech voices. So this linking that we're talking about, where we're sending cookies and device IDs, we know that it's going to be a huge, huge challenge. And so a lot of this is about to undergo a huge change, or maybe even go away. So what are we going to do? We're going to end up buying the same way that you have traditionally bought. If you are an out-of-home specialist agency, you can use census data if that's available to you. Root are doing some very, very exciting things in the space, and they have got a huge pool of data that's designed for activation and out-of-home. One of the assumptions being made is that these new tech companies have to activate using mobile location data, but that's not the case. It's just an option. You can still book your markets, pick your locations, and buy in the same way that you have been doing before, but with additional options. So why would you want to do this? Digital out-of-home budgets are significantly smaller than digital online budgets. They are gigantic compared to digital out-of-home. If you can, as an out-of-home company, tap into even 1-2% of these digital budgets, you're going to be opening yourselves up to significantly more revenue. In competitive pitches, if you're able to go in and speak with confidence about what it is that you're doing in this new space, and have a strong opinion on what is good, what is bad, and what you don't want to do, it's going to help you win new business. And digitalization of out-of-home is it's ever increasing. It's only going to grow, and so there's a huge, huge opportunity to command the space, become a leader, become a specialist here. So if you are brand new to digital out-of-home, if you've never bought any digital out-of-home, it's a hugely brand safe format, massively viewable, very visible. There are a lot of opportunities to be self-serve now, the same way you are in your existing DSP. If you are using Google or the Trade Desk, whatever you're used to doing, you can buy digital out-of-home in that same way now, and have that control and have that value proposition to your clients where you have fingers on keyboards. And it's becoming faster and faster. So there are some very, very strong positives as a buyer. As a media owner, there is a lot of talk in the space, whether it is good, bad, whether you want to get into it at all. And there's a lot of fear about giving up control because out of home the supply has been managed so carefully. You do not need to get into this at all. Each market transacts very differently. The UK is looking like it's going to be a lot of deal-based buying with some exchange inventory. Some markets are 100% exchange, some are 100% PMPs. The UK looks like it's going to be a kind of a mix here. But if you are strong in this space, you are opening yourself up to these huge digital budgets. And that's so key right now after this period of real hardship in out of home. So one of the questions I get a lot is, why do we have to pay this tax? Why do we have to pay you, Hivestack? You don't have to pay us. You don't have to use us at all, or any of our competitors, or competing companies in the space. You can still continue to transact on an insertion order based sort of way of doing business. That's absolutely fine. So you shouldn't feel compelled or forced to have to do any of this. Another area of doubt is who is going to run this. The out-of-home planners are specialists, incredible in their field. And then the programmatic teams, very digital-based. The two of them are coming together now, and there can be confusion about who is going to own this. So there's opportunity there to carve that out as an agency and specialize there in this space here. Also, depending on where you are outside of the major cities, avails for digital out-of-home can drop off, which leads to discussion about digital place-based, smaller screens versus digital out-of-home, larger formats, and then getting specs is a huge challenge. So some of these are my daily challenges. The IAB UK already working on specs, and with a lot of adoption, we're going to have better standardization. So having a lot of different people doing things differently, it's ambiguity, it hampers growth. Compared to online, where you have 4 standard banner sizes, a couple of video tag formats, a couple of mobile banners. There's a huge number of different specs in out of home. So the lack of standardization is a big issue right now, but changing very quickly. There are questions over the phase out of mobile device IDs, which will affect current measurement and current data activation solutions. But there's also a lot of optimism about how we can move forward with be that sort of mobile fingerprinting, but privacy compliant solutions for the future. If you're talking to digital teams, a lot of the targeting is perceived to be a bit softer. And so they are looking for education around how they can plan and activate digital out of home in the best possible way. There's so much opportunity for the buyers and sellers to talk together and understand pricing. Pricing is very key. In the online world, when RTV became prevalent, there was this crash in CPMs, and everyone in this space really needs to do everything they can to avoid that, because it's not good for the growth of our industry. Some of the challenges we've got, we need a snazzy acronym. My traditional mates like to call it POO. They think it's funny. It's not that funny. And then there's a question about, is it programmatic or is it not, Chris? What are we going to call it? How are we going to define the current space? Biddable real-time auctions are not required to activate any of this right now. There is a huge surplus of supply and few buyers. It's all built on the same OpenRTB architecture, but it doesn't actually require real-time bidding right now for it to, for any of this new technology to work. And so in that sense, it's not programmatic. But calling it ad served is not sexy enough. So we need the industry to evolve and mature. And then who is missing? Who have we not talked about? We've not talked about any of these guys. There are a few major tech companies, one very large DSP coming to market soon. But Google, Facebook, and Amazon are not active in space. And that's because it was going to require engineering resources on their part to develop their platforms. But they certainly are coming to the space sooner rather than later because of all of this growth and excitement in digital out-of-home. So that is the end of my talk there. Thanks for listening.
Wonderful. That is a great way to start off our webinar, to set the scene, Stephen. So thank you very much. And I don't even want to know what time it is over there in Canada. It's one of the vagaries, I guess, of working in this virtual world. Thank you very, very much indeed. Again, if you have any questions for Stephen, do use the Q&A and we can follow up at the end of the talk. So thanks very much indeed. Now, next up, we have Claire Kimber, Director of Innovation, and Lee Mabey, Integration and Strategy Director from Posterscope. And they're going to have a deep dive into the creative capabilities of digital out-of-home and hopefully show how they can drive campaign performance. So over to you, Claire. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lee Mabey, Integration Strategy Director at Posterscope. And this morning, we're here to talk about creativity as the business engine for growth. Creative thinking, big ideas, and bold behaviour are often seen as a nice to have. But before COVID-19, it was often sacrificed for a short-term solution that would stack up in the boardroom. And with short-termism being increasingly adopted in these uncertain times, existing declines in creative effectiveness could become terminal. Now, what we need now is bravery. We need strong creative work like never before. After all, we know that creativity is the business engine for growth, and growth is what all marketeers need right now. When you think about some of the most profitable pieces of advertising, it's often the big ideas that create emotional connections with consumers that deliver the strongest return for brands. Let's take the example of Cadbury Gorilla. It failed every creative test possible, yet it became one of the most well-known ads of all time, and more importantly for Cadbury, drove an 8% increase in sales for dairy milk. Campaigns that win IPA effectiveness awards are those that create emotional connections with consumers. They are up to 5 times more effective than those campaigns that didn't deliver an emotional element. The Dentsu Global CMO survey revealed that 85% of CMOs believe that creativity and big ideas build brands, and that creating emotional connections will deliver long-term brand growth. And yet, only 50% of marketers believe that they're doing this well. In a post-COVID world, this is going to become more acute. Now, I'm sure we're all aware and have read, hopefully, the Lemon report from the IPA, which talks around left and right brain thinking and how brands need to gain access to the right brain to deliver more commercial benefit. Orlando Wood proved through his emotional engagement model that a brand share of voice can be amplified through delivering emotional connections with consumers. Now, what this model tells us is that campaigns with an emotional strategy are nearly twice as likely to report gain over the long term as those that do not. So what's driving the difference between ambition versus reality? In short, it's a short-termist attitude. The importance of delivering short-term ROI gains in return is killing creativity. At Posterscope, we believe that in order to maintain and deliver commercial gain, brands need to entertain. Out of home is perfectly placed to deliver creative ideas. It's a huge opportunity area and is still relatively untapped for brands. Suits love out of home. We've known that for a long time. It distills creative ideas down into the most basic form, delivering the perfect canvas to bring creative thinking to life. Creative out of home work will be an essential role to play in a post-lockdown society. Finding the right tone with consumers will be key. Our groundbreaking dynamic digital out-of-home moments of truth research demonstrated that there was a 16% increase in brain response when timely contextual copy was displayed. Out-of-home can be the perfect channel to take people away from the humdrum, if only for a few seconds, delivering delightful, engaging experiences. Such as this one here for Hendrick's, the portal to the peculiar. We created a 75-second experience like no other, blowing the senses with powerful visuals and intoxicating smells. Out-of-home was the lead channel for this campaign and delivered a 10% growth for Hendrick's in a declining category of 5%. Now, why would we be talking about this during an IAB session? Most importantly for us, it's what it did for people that perhaps didn't experience it and didn't see it in person. This proves that creative ideas in out-of-home drive social conversations. This campaign delivered 248,000 social media impressions across 1 week. That's 248,000 impacts that people that couldn't experience the tunnel could then experience. And it was also named as one of Lonely Planet's must-see experiences in London. Last year, Jaguar used digital out-of-home as their lead channel to take the Wimbledon experience out of SW19 and into all corners of the UK, their key KPI for the campaign last year. They recreated the iconic scoreboard on large format screens in 10 countries, in 10 cities across the country, as well as serving daily highlight reels of full motion content of the key action direct from the tournament. But the most important part for this is how we push the creative potential of digital out-of-home to its fullest. We streamed live matches from Jaguar brand ambassadors Johanna Konta, Carl Edmund and Milos Raonic, as well as the 2 pulsating singles finals direct onto large format screens throughout Westfield, London and Westfield Stratford, bringing the big screen experience from Wimbledon direct to people outside the tournament. The launch of Star Trek Picard was marked a novel event, insomuch as Piccadilly Circus was transformed into Piccadilly Circus. The Central London Tube Station was transformed over a few days earlier this year, and station announcements even changed as well, with people asking to take care when using the stairs, escalators, or transporters. This campaign went viral as cast members shared images from the station. Now, if the stars were lucky enough to walk out of Piccadilly Circus, they would have seen one of the biggest digital out-of-home screens in the world, Piccadilly Lights. We partnered with BT to create a modern classroom for kids where young children coded directly onto the big screen. There was a code writing pop-up situated in Piccadilly Circus during the half-term break that encouraged children to create their own avatars and learn simple coding skills. The avatars were then directly displayed onto the digital out-of-home screen. This generated a once-in-a-lifetime experience that no other medium could deliver and flies in the face of short-termist principles by delivering one of the best creative experiences kids could imagine. You may recall earlier this year the Art Angel campaign by Oscar-winning film director and artist Steve McQueen. The project involved class photos being taken of every Year 3 class across London in an attempt to capture the diverse overview of the capital. In addition to class photos of 75,000 children appearing at Take Britain, the same imagery of London Year 3 classes were displayed in out-of-home sites across the capital, creating an urban art gallery like no other. Art Angel partnered with Posterscope not only to amplify this once-of-a-kind opportunity, but also to use our location expertise to make sure that class portraits were put in proximity to each of the schools featured. Now, what's really nice about this campaign is in reality, it has nothing to do with advertising. It's about using out-of-home as a public utility, giving back to local communities, and putting a smile on the face of people that saw it. It's also just a really good creative idea for out-of-home. And this creative thinking is something we need now more than ever before.
Morning, everyone. Hope you can all hear me. I'm at the mercy of Virgin Media, so I'm going to assume that everyone can hear and see me and crack straight on. So thanks, Lee, for that. I'm Claire Kimber, Group Innovation Director at Posterscope, and today I'm going to talk to you about the intrinsic role of creative thinking in our digital screens in the new world that we find ourselves in today, and of course in the future. Creativity, of course, comes in many, many forms. In Dig Out of Home, as Lee mentioned, it could be dynamic, for example. It can be creative use of data, creative contextual planning, live updates, etc., etc. We could spend all day talking about that alone. But today, I'm going to talk to you about creative critical thinking to drive consumer-facing innovation in Dig Out of Home. Because we've got these amazing screens, right? And we can and should let our minds go absolutely berserk in terms of what we can plug into them. Not least because the world is somewhat different now. And with that comes an ever more present need to innovate and create. To echo Lee's points, we know that out of home can deliver emotional connections with consumers, connections that, more importantly, deliver business results. And in this much changed world that we find ourselves in, we've never needed that more. Next slide, please, Lee. So when Lemon was released back in October last year, it kind of beautifully articulated and substantiated what many of us already knew. And that was creative effectiveness in advertising was in crisis. Fast forward today, and this vital study is even more pertinent, not just in advertising, but of course in the wider sphere of popular culture and the creative industries in which we sit. It's without question time for a reset and time to use our collective imaginations to build a much better tomorrow in every single sense, because we're witnessing real-time changes in society, in media consumption, and of course in technology. So it's an era of invention, very simply because the need is there. It's no longer a frivolous endeavor. Technology and creative thinking are, of course, humanity's accelerant, and with crisis and volatility, what often follows is a period of rapid innovation. We're at an almost point of no return. History has shown us that sudden shifts in human need will always propel thinking and invention, born out of necessity. Our business is absolutely no different. We're arguably the only media channel that physically exists in tangible public spaces. So as an industry, we've got the opportunity to accelerate and evolve according to this new consumer need state. And it sounds very lofty, but we're very much all architects of this future, and we can build whatever we want that future to be. One thing that is certain is it's going to be a future fueled by technology, data, collaboration, and good old-fashioned creative thinking. Next slide, please, Lee. And we've never, ever had an opportunity to write a new creative blueprint like this. And we don't just mean as an activation or as a special build, we mean by threading creative, critical thinking throughout everything we do. As Lee said, we know that before COVID, 86% of CMOs surveyed globally believed already that creativity and big ideas build brands, create emotional experience, and that deliver long-term brand growth. Yeah, only half of these CMOs thought the industry was doing it well. So there's ever more need now for us to get back to that creative thinking to deliver effectiveness. Economic change forces brands to rethink what creative effectiveness means and reevaluate the power of impact. We've got to revalue creativity. At the moment, it's a few fancy slides at the end of a deck. It should be the heartbeat of everything we do. But we also need to dream big and aim for those moonshots. As a business, we're very much led by that kind of spirit that permeates innovation in the tech sector. So initiatives like the Moonshot Factory at Google are really what we aspire to be, albeit on a slightly smaller scale. So I'm going to quickly whiz you through some of our current points of focus on how we make a reality of this reset, how we make our media better, more creative by using, and in some cases accelerating, exciting new technologies and innovations. So 3 key areas: 5G, of course. This is the fuel that makes the impossible possible, right? Tech partners, we've got an enviable contacts book because we know we can't do this on our own. And purpose, we feel very strongly that one of our greatest strengths as a channel also means that we have an enormous responsibility to lead in the development of future-facing and sustainable solutions in our space. All of this, of course, is underpinned by the good old-fashioned creative thinking, and the thought that the more we turn the dial up on our creative thinking, the more we turn the dial up on everything that we do. So next slide, please, Lee. 5G. So this is a new era of super fast connectivity rolling out at pace. But what does it mean for digital out of home? Well, put simply, it's the kind of bandwidth that we need to fuel the future. If we crudely kind of bucket outdoor technologies into infrastructure and experience, you can see how in infrastructure, smart cities, autonomous driving simply cannot exist really without 5G to transport these volumes of data. And that data, of course, includes us. With that comes a sizable improvement in location data due to multiple antenna, and of course our devices giving off multiple pings. In the experience bucket, 5G is also going to pick up the pace on the glitchy Internet of Things and ultimately evolve that into the tactile internet. It will push on cloud gaming, live movie streaming, and perhaps most interestingly for us, it will provide low latency, which will bring about a massive revolution to the mixed realities world, primarily AR, which in turn augments the digital out-of-home landscape. We're already seeing this starting to happen with partnerships with Nexus Studios and Samsung, AT&T in the States, who have already rolled out the world's first kind of jaw-dropping AR cloud activations, which hopefully you've all seen. If you haven't, I urge you to go and look them up, which are essentially thoughts around mapping the digital world over the physical world to build all new shared experiences, meaning in the most simplest of terms, Dig Out of Home becomes a network of connected content portals and new interfaces. Next slide, please, Lee. So, of course, collaboration is key. We're seeing this happening everywhere. For example, auto manufacturers are brokering these deep partnerships with major global tech companies and academic research facilities like MIT to deliver on what for them is a massively, rapidly evolving marketplace. For example, Nissan partnered with NASA to integrate their Mars exploration research developments in autonomous vehicles to apply that to Earth-dwelling vehicles. And in Dig Out of Home, the possibilities are, of course, vast in this area. Again, being perhaps the only media channel that has the opportunity to build physical solutions by applying tech and thinking from other disciplines into the channel. Some brief examples of that are engineering, robotics, 3D volumetric display, AR, visual search, data, gesture control, haptics, voice search. I could go on and on for hours, and I would if I didn't have a strict time slot. But we, of course, can't give away all of our secrets. We're already playing hard in this space. And we've got relationships in place with multiple tech startups and content providers, data providers, developers, creative tech studios, with many, many more to follow. Because for us, it's this collaboration, this collaborative spirit between us, our clients, our media owner partners, third parties, that's going to enable us to create these radical new creative technologies that not only solve problems, but also build emotional experiences in public spaces via our Dig Out of Home. Next slide, please, Lee. And finally, we're, of course, using this thinking to look at ways in which we can drive this moment of reset. Because finding ways that heal our cities and communities via that physicality of Dig Out of Home is needed now more than ever. UK media owners are developing great products in this space, but we're looking beyond that because we want to kind of set the agenda a little bit more. We're exploring alternative energy sources, synthetic bioluminescent lighting, which again I could talk about for hours, but everyone I'm sure would find that quite dull. Digitized pollution-eating algae, many, many more new technologies that are evolving at pace. And of course, working out the best and most pertinent ways that we can plug this into our sea of screens. But perhaps what's most pertinent is that very real need for touchless technologies, which is already seeing rapid acceleration for very obvious reasons, due to the heightened awareness of health risk and therefore a reluctance to touch objects in public spaces. So that touchscreen technology that we've become very familiar with in the digital out-of-home space has no option but to adapt to ensure continued engagement. Touchless solutions I'm talking about in the realms of mid-air haptics, wearable neurotechnologies, virtual touch. They're all new digital interfaces that still feel somehow human, which is an ever more important requirement of technology, but one where touch is entirely digital and safe. But as mentioned previously, we can't do it on our own. So we make friends and take inspiration from multiple places, including academia, places such as MIT, UCL, Michigan State University, who are prototyping transparent solar panels, Liverpool University, and of course with startups across the planet. We were fortunate enough to be at CES at the beginning of the year, building some of those relationships with the weird and the wonderful, including vertical urban farmers and smart city practitioners and bioarchitects, to name but a few. So we keep some very interesting company. Next slide, please, Lee. So just to wrap up, we firmly believe, and I appreciate this has been very much a whistle-stop tour, but we believe that the future of Dig Out of Home will absolutely be built on brilliant creative thinking, whether executionally, conceptually, or strategically. Creativity is, after all, problem solving, having fun, right? And we need to keep doing this better and better, because more creativity means more invention, more solutions, more purpose, more unfair advantage for our clients, more competitive edge, and of course, more results. So let's reset. Aim for the moonshot thinking, be better, encourage creativity by plugging everything in, flicking all of our switches on, turning the dial up on everything, setting overdrive to our default position, and getting us all to the 1.21 gigawatts ASAP. Thank you for listening, everyone. We've been Posterscope featuring Marty McFly.
Fabulous. I'm exhausted, Claire and Lee. That was really, really great to see some fantastic creative examples as well. I think it's something that we at the IAB are really keen on, is to try and get people to think more longer term, which obviously in current climate can be quite a difficult thing. So now we have Matt Smith, Business Development Director at View, who's going to share with you guys all why programmatic technology is going to be integral into restarting the digital out-of-home market. So Matt, over to you.
Thanks, Dom. So I shall share my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. I shall go full size. And yes, so today I will be taking you through why advertisers should be embracing this.
Just a second, Matt, it's actually on your screen share. If you want to go full screen.
Is it? Okay.
You might need to swap displays.
2 seconds. Let me just stop sharing and I'll try again. The simplicities, sorry.
You'd think it would be simple, wouldn't it? That's brilliant. Thank you.
Perfect. So yes, why advertisers should be embracing this brand and performance channel is my topic today. I'm Matt. I'm working for View. I head up the demand and agency engagement for our business. A little bit about us before I begin. We are a global digital out-of-home programmatic marketplace. Our purpose in this marketplace is to make sure that we connect brands and digital advertising together to make sure that we can trade this space as efficiently as possible. So following on from a similar theme to Stephen's presentation, I think it's highly pertinent and important to really demonstrate where we were before the pandemic. So a pre-COVID report conducted by MarketWatch has identified that global digital out-of-home spend is increasing exponentially. And as demonstrated by this slide, this predicted global figure is due to reach $8.7 billion by 2023. To support this growth, each player in this space are realizing the potential of incremental values that can be unlocked with the use and entry of programmatic tech in this marketplace. So it's really important to show advertisers why there is so much more to digital out of home today. The first step is actually showing them that people are outside again. So we're talking about the recovery stage and how brands should be thriving in the current climate. Media owners are finding new ways outside of the normal to measure audiences and determine success from their clients' campaigns. Each media vendor has had a tough time. Let's not ignore that. However, what is hugely and ultimately positive to see is how the channels and the different environments that make out-of-home great are now suddenly thriving to their pre-COVID best. So live tracking is being used, whether that's mobile data or third-party data providers that are providing context around the audience that exists in outdoors. Landlord data, such as TFL mobility data, is providing transparency on where traffic is at any given time. But equally, analysing audience trends from international markets where vendors are active, equally showing that governments were ahead of the UK when easing lockdown measures are being analysed too. So segmentation is also being provided. Media owners need to provide forecasts as to where these audiences are likely to exist, which is a nice segue into our next slide. So JCDecaux have created a live audience tracker. So similar to both Talon's and Google's mobility tracker, they've used trusted mobile data, analysed audience trends from their other markets, which are again ahead of the UK, and an exercise which started in May and in June. You'll start to see those following predictions across their associated environments. So you'll see here broken down into 4 different segments. The first hello between May and June, looking up between the peak of summer, and then road to recovery and the new different to complete Q3 and Q4. All of these are examples to show how the digital out-of-home market is acclimatizing to COVID. And actually the conditions and these forecastings provide an even better future. Meanwhile, advertisers are back to their normal battles. So it's very much about that brand building versus performance advertising. In economic recovery, a number of brands are tightening their budgets and just to focus on the performance channels in silo. The short-term results, especially for 2020, are the focus. For the bigger brands and those where they're actually the storm that's coming, they know they need a mixture of channels to deliver both a brand focus and also deliver short-term results. Traditionally, plans will then split into top of the funnel and then broadcast channels and lower funnel plans, performance channels, for example, out of home and TV versus PPC, mobile and social. But now with the addition of programmatic tech and partners, out of home can help drive middle funnel action to better enhance bottom of the funnel channels. This is what advertisers need to be focusing on in this channel, in this time to recover and thrive. So why do advertisers need to embrace this brand and performance channel? Everyone knows about out of home as a brand building channel. It's high impact, it's broadcast, it's engaging. What we need to look at is how programmatic technology and data are helping transform this medium into a performance channel today. So programmatic is aligning out of home with digital channels. Omnichannel synergy is underway. It's at the forefront of many programmatic campaigns that we see traded through our platform, whether that's straight strategy, planning and targeting, and access via DSPs, connect mobile, online display, video, and now digital out of home together. Equally, data is crucial. First party and third party data is available to target, plan and optimize across channels. And of course, important to any campaign, scalable audiences exist across many different environments and geographies. But lastly, on this particular slide, transparency. An important topic for the industry, and in light of the recent findings from PwC and ISBA, views show where and when ads have been displayed, to whom, and in what environment. So when looking at costs, View charge no buy-side fees, meaning all digital money traded through View goes to the media. So elaborating on the slide before and thinking about how advertisers need to embrace this brand and performance channel, data is obviously pertinent. Data such as an understanding where an audience is likely to exist can be achieved at third-party level. It's important to remember to make this channel more performance-based, it is to use data to target, plan and optimize campaigns. It's also worth noting that a number of this data is actually applied at first-party data level. So whether that's agency, client at DSP level, you will start to see new opportunities arise. So sales data, ticket data, social data, all of which apply to the new programmatic efficacy. So omnichannel is part of this process. So strategy, planning and targeting makes up a large percentage of those plans and those executions. Unified strategy and brand experience across digital and real life touchpoints is available today. Equally, same audience data to target across multiple channels and plan around those audiences is useful for most brands. But equally, we're starting to see the retargeting opportunity arise. So whether that's the out-of-home screen to be used as the retargeting screen or vice versa, a recent JCDecaux study has shown a 17% uplift in mobile activations when digital out-of-home was used. There was also a highlight for digital out-of-home and mobile in particular. So people were queuing, generally speaking, more outside shops. There's a survey that suggests that 11 minutes is spent on average outside stores. So utilising digital out-of-home campaigns alongside a mobile location triggered campaign has proven to increase impact. So equally, we're talking about driving performance, awareness and outcomes. So we enable advertisers to better source and reach audiences. And the 4 key takeaways I want to state today is how true trading flexibility applies. Buyers can now start and stop campaigns as they wish, relevant when thinking of the global pandemic or new lifestyle habits that form. Buyers can equally optimize mid-flight, making their budgets go further, and also budgets can be moved channel to channel. There's also an audience insight that applies. DSPs use mobile data to find and track audiences, whether working from home or in the office, which is a new normal routine that's starting to form. The same audience can also be used across multiple digital channels. Trigger-led targeting is absolutely important within a non-guaranteed environment. So we're talking about the planning phase of every campaign being important, but equally as important is the execution. So using data and results to optimize campaigns is something that we're seeing as a new trend and something that we at View are happy to share results with clients, brands, associated agencies. And lastly, the key takeaway for today is that unified consumer experience across multiple digital channels. There is an omnichannel synergy. It's been happening for some time. It exists. It can be achieved programmatically, but equally there's a holistic brand experience that applies to consumers. So that's from awareness straight through to activation or action. These are proven to be the reasons as to why brands are using this methodology when investing in out-of-home today. So I've kept that incredibly punchy, bang on 10 minutes. And that is View's presentation today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt. It's great to see, how this industry and this sector is evolving into a more performance-led piece. So wonderful. And finally, we've now got Isa and Deepa from Tide, who are going to showcase the future of 2 screens and how digital and mobile advertising can combine to great effect with some groundbreaking research. And I think it's something also that Matt just touched on as one of the kind of the opportunities in the space as well. So it's great that there's some common themes coming through. So Isa and Deepa, over to you.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me here today. I am Isa, Head of Growth at Tide, and Tide is a fintech company, challenger bank for small businesses, freelancers and the startups. And today I will present the research JCDecaux did together with Lumen about how 2 screens working together, how digital out-of-home advertising impact interactions with mobile advertising. And later with Deepa will talk about about the Tide findings and how this worked adding digital out-of-home in the whole channel mix for us. So as the next slide, as we can see, the 9 by 16 size deliver over 57% of all digital out-of-home weekly viewed impressions, which is also the same ratio as social media story for media ads. So the asset is available to use for digital out-of-home advertising, and there is like minimum barrier to enter the market. And this brings us to the research. Research talks about the theory of the two mediums working together. Worth noting that the research is first of a kind using latest state of the technology. This research actually was done 1 year ago. Now I know that there is a new research available with British Gas, and also Facebook is commissioning this very similar research. And now there is more coming up, and more brands have an opportunity to test and see how this works together. And exposure to how digital out-of-home advertising will impact interaction with mobile advertising. The methodology was used for this research. It was nationally recruited 600 respondents. They were asked to use small video with potential exposure to digital out-of-home, and afterwards they were browsing social media pages with ads corresponding to digital out-of-home. It was followed with a questionnaire to measure the recall and the perception of the brand, and also the key message takeaway. So digital out-of-home and social media ads were paired to measure the impact on a viewing digital out-of-home and attention to the mobile ads. As you can see in this research was a good mixture of brands, from very well-known brands like EE, Coca-Cola, also the startups like Tide and also Wheelie. And here you can see a couple of videos. So those originally those ads was created for the mobile advertising, and it was used for digital out-of-home as well. So basically we can see here how they responded. One is seeing the EE ad, and they responded to see Coca-Cola ad. It was used artificial ad insertion technology to create this experience. And we can see from this video how eye tracking is data aggregated, where the human eyes is focused while walking around the mall, and exposure is as natural as possible here. We can also see how busy is the mall environment. There is a lot to take in. There's a lot of brands to view, storefronts and other things. And this brings us to the results. So the results prove a theory how digital out-of-home amplifies the mobile. Here we can see EE ad viewed on the social media while browsing, and we can see great attention to the ad for those who saw prior digital out-of-home advertising. So the ones who did not view digital out-of-home advertising, the dwell time to the ad is 2.3 seconds, and the ones who viewed digital out-of-home, we viewed the ad for 2.7 seconds. There is also some creating findings where the human eye is actually focusing while viewing the ad, but we will gonna discuss this in the coming slides. So here it comes to the results, the actual dwell time on mobile ads driven by the digital out-of-home exposure. The likelihood to view mobile ads is actually about the same. So for the ones who did not view digital out-of-home and viewed digital out-of-home, the likelihood to see your mobile ad is almost the same, but the dwell time actually increased quite a bit. So from 2 seconds, its dwell time increases to 3 seconds on average. And here we can see the link that actual Dwell time on digital out of home and dwell time on mobile increases while goes, and it goes up to 3 seconds of a dwell time. So basically, more time you spend on a digital out of home ad, more time you will gonna spend on a mobile ad, which actually makes sense, because if you are interested to the ad and you spend more time of seeing and watching the ad on a mall, you will probably spend more time on your mobile when you see this ad again. And we can also see that spontaneous ad recall and prompted recall increase significantly if people have seen digital out of home already, by 133% and 65% respectively. So we know that the number of viewing is the same, but if a person view the ad for longer, that causes a greater recall. The research also proved that the key messages featured on the ads across the brands had higher overall message takeout. So if you spend more time and have a longer dwell time on the ad, and you also have a long kind of like you take out the message what the brand is trying to say easy as well. And where it comes to this formula where 2 + 2 = 5. So basically, as title suggests, this is an important amplification effect on a mobile. Average dwell time on viewing digital out of home is 2 seconds, same for mobile, but when viewing it both, we get 5 seconds of dwell time. It's an extra 50% of dwell time over what we would expect. So 2 + 2 = 5. This is a similar effect for spontaneous recall. Digital out of home mobile is amplified above expected 21%. The increase in the dwell time causing an increase in spontaneous ad recall. So this kind of like results are from the research we did. It was done like a year ago, and now it takes to some findings for the Tide and how we added, kind of like we participated in this research. As I mentioned, I guess we were like a startup 1 year ago, so we're adding. So basically, we had interesting results 1 year ago. Maybe it will be interesting, different now with the larger budgets, and but it's interesting to see how it works, having digital out of home in the media mix. And I definitely think it's a format to be used for, especially for the larger brands. And Deepa, maybe you can actually continue now with the results for Tide.
Yeah. So Tide also participated in this study, so I'm just going to share the specific results that came from Tide. So this is looking at the amplification effect. So this is the dwell time, the spontaneous recall, prompted recall, and message outtake. And you can see that for Tide specifically, the amplification effect was not really noticeable. So the dwell time didn't really increase with digital out of home and mobile, neither did recall or outtake either. It was kind of results didn't really show anything significant. Then there was some creative analysis done on the back of this to see potentially why the reasons could be as to why we didn't necessarily see the same results as the likes of EE and the other brands. And the main thing was down to creative. So you can see here on the eye tracker that a lot of the focus is very much on the top and the middle part of the creative. So you can see on the right hand side the percentages by each section of the ad. Our branding and Tide Smart Business Banking is at the bottom of the advert. So the recall and things like that is very much understandable based on the fact that the eye isn't necessarily on that Tide logo. So there were a few creative recommendations on the back of this. Of course, the brand could be centered or raised to be in line with where the eye is moving around. And also just to capture the attention of people right from the offset. So you can see from the EE example that the EE logo was very much in the center of the ad, which would have contributed to its performance. But I do think one of the main reasons why we didn't necessarily see the same results for Tide as we saw for the other brands is because Tide is a much newer brand in the market. Our brand awareness will nowhere near be to the levels of EE and Coke, Volkswagen or Sony. They're very much legacy brands. You don't necessarily need to know the creative to be able to recognize it immediately. They've kind of got that branding in place. for a much longer period of time than we have. So we're not as immediately recognisable, which will be affecting the performance. Likewise, the settings for the test was an artificial setting, so people had to put an eye tracker in, and they were sitting in an artificial setting looking at them all, which could be contributing to performance as well. Of course, it's difficult to recreate these settings in a normal one. However, JCDecaux have recently done that with some other bigger brands. We didn't partake in this study, and they did see similar results in that digital out of home and mobile did increase prompted recall, dwell time, and so on. So just thought it'd be interesting as well to share our own results from a more D6 test that we did back in November. So this was nothing to do with the digital out of home and mobile study. It was just some results that we saw from our more activity that we did back in November. So our testing was running digital sixes in key cities for Tide across the UK from the 18th of November for 2 weeks. So this is very much a key period for shopping. We're running up to Christmas, Black Fridays in the eyesight, and so on. And for the first time, we'd been using more D6s. We hadn't used them before, and it was a very much concentrated city-by-city test. And many of the cities that we ran the out-of-home in, we didn't run any other media alongside it. We did have TV on a national basis, but no concentrated media on a regional level. So you can see the results here. So the percentage is looking at the uplift in expected sign-ups that we would have seen around that 18th of November period versus the actual sign-ups that we did see. And these cities are only the cities that we ran 100% more D6s in. And you can see that there have been some really good uplifts across a number of the cities, including Bradford, Newcastle, Croydon. Of course, some cities did not perform, but the majority of cities did see an uplift on the back of running solely more D6s. I think there's some learnings that we can take forward just based on the digital out of home and mobile results that we saw from the previous study, that maybe we could uplift our social media within these cities as well, and see if there's been any incremental uplift within them on the back of that. So this was really good to see, and as we said, it was the first time we'd run these more D6s, and we're keen to keep exploring the digital formats as it's quite new for us at the moment. So in summary, you can see that the research that ISTA took you through shows the potential power of digital out of home and mobile ads. I do think it did favour the bigger brands a bit more from an awareness consideration and purchase intent perspective. And we didn't necessarily see the same results for Tide, most likely due to our awareness and brand recognition, and also the creative improvements that we touched upon as well. However, what is really good to know is that our multi-6 performance looked really promising, and we are looking to explore more of these in the future. And we can look at incorporating a social media campaign as well within that to continue to test and learn from. But I think this is really interesting results. And I know that JCDecaux are looking to explore these further in more real settings with further brands as well. Thank you very much.
That was fascinating. Oh, I'm going to get my video back on. Slowly working. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you, Esther. That was really, really good. Now, we haven't had any Q&A throughout the talk, which is possibly a good thing, because I think actually the talks have been so informative, and some great actionable insights as well. So unless anyone's got any major kind of questions they would like to raise via the Q&A section, then we can just have a quick roundup. And I just thought it's worthwhile touching on that presentation, because I think it's great to see the importance of, first of all, getting some fantastic feedback from a brand and some insights from there, which is fantastic to see in this sort of setting. But also, as has been touched on by a couple of the other presentations, the importance of omni-channel planning, and the fact that one format can definitely impact the performance of another, and the fact that mobile and digital out of home seem to be working together brilliantly to amplify the effect of a campaign. And also to touch on some of the other work that's been done. Lee and Claire talked in Posterscope about the need for long-term planning, the fact that we're not just focusing on the short term with the Tide campaigns. You're looking at developing branding ideas, and obviously the impact that some people have been doing branding for a long, long time, like those big blue chip companies, does have a distinct impact on performance. That's really great to see. We had a fantastic update from Stephen, who set the scene from Hivestack, to kind of describe the main points around the development of digital out of home. And obviously the guys from Posterscope talked about the importance of creativity, long-term thinking. And then obviously Matt did a fantastic presentation to look at the importance of programmatic in this space. And again, that was touched on by the power of combining different sectors as well, and the importance of the kind of programmatic stack in planning your campaign. So really good to see what they're doing and how the market's moving, and more importantly, how you can actually get some growth in the market based on reacting to the COVID situation. So good to see some positive shoots as well. And again, once again, thanks to ISTA and to Deepak and Ty to give their update. So I hope everyone found that really, really useful. As I said, we'll be able to share the decks and the recording of the presentation for you and your colleagues after the call. I'm just going to check. I think someone's just done a quick catch up. So this is a question for Matt. Do you think that DCO will play a big part in digital out of home? So Matt, if you're on the line, could you elucidate on that? Or
yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yes is the short answer. I think DCO, I mean, we're starting to see HTML5 campaigns becoming ever more common within programmatic. It's existed for some time anyway before programmatic entry. But I think the use of data, creativity combined is something most advertisers are keen to take advantage of. So yeah, absolutely, DCO will be part of many players' kind of plans moving forwards.
And it might be worthwhile for some people on the call just to remind everyone what DCO is, just to...
Yeah, it's dynamic creative optimization. So there's different ways to achieve it. There are different vendors equally that deliver this solution today. View as a business, we're equally tackling the issue, working with third parties, but equally with the media owners to make sure that they themselves are absolutely comfortable with what is being delivered. But yeah, there are templates that exist, there are opportunities that exist within this area, and I think that will only really, I guess, propel the growth of this medium into the next stage.
Wonderful. And yeah, I think some of the examples we've seen quite a lot of is reacting to weather and things like that, and having additional kind of data feeds to change the creative based on that, or potentially sports score feeds and things like that have been used to great effect across standard display as well in the recent past. Wonderful.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's it for questions, unless anyone else has got a burgeoning question. If you have anything that you suddenly think of once the seminar's finished, then just drop me a line. It's dominic@iabuk.com, and we'll be able to feed it back to the partners. But if you don't have any other questions, then we will finish up and give you a few minutes of your day back, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up with you all very, very soon. So thanks once again to everyone on the call, and if you have any questions, we'll hopefully hear from you soon. But all the best, and thank you very much.